What is going on, everybody? This is your boy Brooks from Hear Me Out podcast, and today I have with me, I'm going to call it the breakdown segment of Hear Me Out. And today I have Catherine Fomenique from the Capital Gazette and the Baltimore Sun Media Group. Catherine, what's up? How are you? So, after that surprising loss, how would you grade the Maryland season, and what are you looking forward to the most? Because they're gonna get Baby back and they're gonna get two other seniors back. What are your
They're getting all the
expectations?
seniors back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
I
getting all
mean,
their senior back. What do you
apparently,
expect for the season to be like next year?
if everyone comes back and everyone's healthy, then I think it would be just like this one, except better. I mean, I'm like a sports romantic. I always think like, certain seasons have magic or whatever. And there's like a certain, and you're not necessarily going to get the same thing because for whatever reason, this season was magic. I mean, I know Brenda would always point to their resilience against the pandemic and, maybe without that, they don't play as well, but I don't know. I mean, they're all going to have more experience. Like I said, if they're all together, they'll have Shanice Lewis back. Angel will be feeling a lot stronger. Zoe Young will be a lot stronger. I think you'll see her really open up the way that she wasn't really 100% this year back from her injury. So, you'll get to see her open up a lot more next year. And then you still have the same key players on the floor. I mean, Ashley will be a junior. Diamond will be a junior. You can't really put a price behind experience. And now they've all had NCAA experience. And I think that's going to show when they, play next year.
So you mentioned Brenda Freeze.
Mm-hmm.
She won her first and only title so far in 2006. Since then, the program has been super consistent as far as, winning conference titles, winning, at least 25 games a season, maybe 30. But it seems like she hasn't been able to break through. You know what I mean? We know she had a couple of Final Fours within this last decade, but what do you have to do? What does Brenda Freeze have to do in order to help this program get another title? Because I spoke with a friend. I was speaking with a friend and she was mentioning how, the team has like the sauce or the juice. They just don't have the sauce right now. How do you get the sauce for this team?
I mean, I think a lot of it's going to be recruiting. I mean, UConn wins almost every year because UConn recruits not just the number one player in the nation, but, the rest of the top 10 under that, I mean, and then they just consistently keep getting it. I mean, Ashley's great. She wasn't number one. She wasn't number two. She's still one of the best players in the nation. But teams that win every year tend to be getting number one this year, the number one the following year, and then that previous number one still on the team. So it's just the best of the best at a high school playing for the same team. And when you have that kind of consistency, it is kind of hard for another team to break in. I mean, obviously that happened this year, but Stanford was also a lot more experienced. Arizona was a lot more experienced. Maryland was not as experienced. Obviously the team that won in 2006 was pretty young too, but I don't know. I think the visibility that Maryland got from being as good as they were this year is going to really help with recruiting. I can think of a couple of girls from around here who have their eyes set on Maryland, but I mean, even across the country, I think that'll really help. And I think the higher recruits that they get coming to Maryland and coming to Brenda Freeze will definitely help in the long run.
Sure. And that's, as you mentioned, the fact that they don't get the number ones and the number twos all the time. And there's even a stretch where, players end up leaving the program. I can think of like Destiny Slocum from a couple of years ago, go back a little bit further, like Lexi Brown. For you, it always surprises me that players end up leaving this program because they end up always playing so well. Why do you think it happens sometimes when players just want to leave, especially with the transfer portal being so crazy right now?
Well, I mean, I think that's part of it is that like more and more players are using the transfer portal to kind of, see what else is out there. I mean, I can't speak for any.
No way. Fuck. You still there?
I can't speak for why, players would want to leave because I don't know, what they want. It could be more for playing minutes. Maybe they just want to see what else is out there. I think it's not exactly, I think it was shocking when Taylor Meisel left last year because she just seemed like such a perfect fit in the program. But then again, Oregon was Oregon last year. Why wouldn't you want to play for Oregon? Right. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just, players these days just really want to see what else they can do somewhere else. And I think we're going to see more and more of that going forward. But I do think that the kind of culture that was so evident on the team this year of not just like we're good and we like playing together, but you have these girls talking about like the movies that they watch together afterwards. And like Zoe Young told me about like how they paint together and watch Netflix after. I mean, just like genuinely close behavior, like really seem to like really love each other. And I think that kind of environment keeps a team together, instead of having players bopping around to see what else they can do.
Do you think the closeness of this team was helped by the fact that like they had to stay on campus, they had to stay in a hotel together, they had no choice but to be around each other?
Definitely. I mean, they talked about that all the time. Like the fact that and you can see it because they never shut down, and that's not to say teams that did shut down for COVID, weren't, following the rules or whatever. I mean, stuff happens, but the fact that Maryland never shut down could show you how well they were sticking to their protocols. And a lot of that is sticking close together and really only spending time with each other. So yeah, that definitely helps. But I think you could sort of start to see it a little bit last year. I mean, they definitely had a similar kind of vibe, and Ashley and Diamond are already close, and I think it just that pandemic helped this year, and I don't think that's necessarily going to change next year when hopefully they're a little more free.
Okay, so I just want to ask you this, and this obviously is way too early. What do you see Maryland being able to do next year? Do you see them as a Final Four team, Elite Eight? What are you thinking?
Well, it's definitely early. And obviously UConn's going to be more experienced. I mean, they were already killer this year, and those were freshmen, and they're going to be even more dangerous next year, especially with their new additions.
Shout out to AZ Fudd.
Yeah. Which hopefully I'll get to see her this summer. That'll be a fun story if I do get to see her training in Maryland. But yeah, I mean, they could be. And I think if they learn from their mistakes of this year, I think more consistent play. I mean, hopefully the pandemic is not still ruining games and, messing up the schedule. So I think more consistent play is really going to help them get used to back-to-back games. I think that's going to be a big deal. Obviously, you're not going to have Charlie Collier, ruining their day. So right. She'll be, ruining someone else's day in the WNBA. But I mean, I think they could be. I think they could. I think the Big Ten is going to look a little different next year just because of who's graduating and who's moving on, but Maryland should look the same. And I think that's going to play a big role. And, Brenda always says the Big Ten like helps them prepare for the tournament because it is one of the strongest conferences, them in the Pac-12. So hopefully I would like to see them go to the Final Four. I thought they were going to go this year, and I was extremely ready for it because I planned my whole schedule around it, but oh well.
So, and you just mentioned how great the Pac-12 is and the Big Ten. I mean, how insane was this NCAA tournament this year, especially with the Stanford and Arizona final? I think not many people were expecting Arizona at least to get to the championship game, but how great was this tournament?
I mean, even the NCAA wasn't because they left Arizona out of their hype video. But I mean, it was just like, I mean, there were games that, I mean, I had no reason to be invested in where like by the end, I'm like screaming and like cheering. And that Texas Tech I can't remember who they were playing, but that shot right at the end, the buzzer beater that helped Texas Tech win. I can't remember who they were playing now, but like that was insane. Pretty much every Final Four and, obviously the national championship and even the Elite Eight. I mean, Baylor, UConn was insane and incredible, and that shouldn't have been as early as it was. It should have been the national championship game, although the national championship game was really good too. Yeah. So I mean, I don't actually know what happened in the men's tournament, really. I mean, I do, but I didn't really watch any of the games because the women's ones were so much better, and I basically, if the women weren't on, I needed a little bit of a break because they were so like intense.
Right.
Like I need to like have a palate cleanser for the night just to like calm down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the women's tournament was incredible. I don't even remember one that has been this good in as many years. Not that they weren't good, but like this one just seemed to be like every team was at their best this year.
And I'm glad that you brought up Baylor and UConn. If you were a ref, are you calling that foul on, or are you giving I can't remember her name right now. Dejanay Carrington. Are you giving Dejanay Carrington those free throws at the end of the game, or are you letting them just play it out?
I don't know, because I mean, it could have gone either way, and it's hard because it's like you call it that could give Baylor the win. You don't call it, UConn takes the win. So I think you would have had people angry regardless. I don't know if Gina would have made the same like off the wall comments in the post game, but I don't know. I probably wouldn't have called it, even though I was I thought it would be interesting if Baylor won, just because I think it's, as good as UConn was, and I really, really like this team this year. It's always kind of fun when the dynasty team gets knocked out, because it's,
Exactly.
it's like, ooh, anybody can win at this point. So.
And that's exactly what I was telling my dad that same night, because he was surprised at me for rooting for Baylor. It's like UConn is so good, Baylor just won a championship the year before. How can you be rooting for them? It's like,
yeah.
I just see team.
Well, because I didn't think that Baylor. I don't know. I mean, I guess if they beat UConn, because the team that beat UConn did end up going all the way. But I don't know. I didn't know if Baylor would make it to the end, but I rooted for Baylor in 2019 to win, because I was like, well, when I saw them beat UConn the regular season, I'm like, oh, that team's going to win the whole thing this year. And they did. So I felt very validated by that. And so I kind of still felt like some loyalty to the 2019 team in that game. But I mean, just the way they were playing against UConn for a good chunk of that game was just so magic. But almost every game towards the end was like that. There was just something about it that was just so crazy. For sure. The end of the South Carolina game, the Final Four was.
That was a killer right there. And I feel like South Carolina and Aaliyah Boston, they're going to be so excited and so properly just pissed off based off of that.
Well, they've gotten better every year. I mean, even last year when they were predominantly freshmen, they were still top 5. They were incredible. Right. And then obviously they're even better this year. And then, who knows next year. That's why I really want to see Maryland go up against them, because I think that would have been really good. I want to see Aaliyah Boston and Ashley Lucy go head to head. I mean, they have, but I mean, now that they're more experienced.
So you mentioned the fact that Arizona versus UConn earlier, and how, Arizona's coach, Ada Barnes, she gives UConn, or not necessarily UConn, but just people that are fans of UConn, the double bird. What did you think of that? And for her, because she's not necessarily intense, but she's just very transparent about how she feels. And, for a lot of women in sports, they're definitely not as respected as they should be. And they're told sometimes to just relax sometimes, and don't be so animated, blah, blah, blah. What did you think of that situation there, and that emotion that she got from her team?
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love seeing women, I mean, there are stoic women, and I'm not saying that every woman needs to be super animated and do everything that the guys do, but if you are an animated person and you like to flip people off, or you lean into your emotions, then that's what you should do. And you should get to do it just as much as a male coach would get to do it, and no one would say anything otherwise. I mean, when Paige Beckers ran by and slapped Gino on the butt during the Iowa game, that was hysterical. I love seeing that kind of stuff. I don't think anyone's ever gotten the chance to slap Gino before during a game, but I mean, I just love seeing stuff like that, especially as more and more people are showing respect for the women's game, getting to see it be lively, not just with the basketball, but with everything. I mean, that's a lot of times you see after an NBA game, I don't hear anything about the game, but I hear about the disrespectful dunk, where someone's sitting on someone else's face. So, it should get to have all of that.
For sure.
Not along with the basketball.
And once again, shout out to the women's basketball tournament. Once again, man, the numbers for ratings were up. Everything was up, including the Final Four and the national championship game, especially, which is crazy because, again, we're in a pandemic year. People aren't necessarily going to go out and watch games, but people were excited to watch this. As Catherine said, man, some of the women's games, I mean, you could definitely make a case that the women's tournament was better as far as theatrics and dramatics and all that.
I would say it was better than the men's. I mean, because the teams that you kind of expected to go to the end of the men's went to the end of the men's, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it happens in the women's tournament a lot, but there was a good finish to that Gonzaga Final Four game. But other than that, I can't point to anything that was more exciting in the men's tournament versus the women's.
My guy or gal, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and share this video for the latest on sports, progressive politics, and pop culture.